doing time? Me. Okay, cool. All right. If you were playing in the road for whatever reason and you saw a truck coming, would you stay in the road because it was inconvenient? Most people wouldn't. But today I'm not going to talk to you about playing in the street. I'm going to talk to you about today's energy crisis. First, I'm going to demonstrate that we have a pressing need to find a new source of energy, and then I'm going to illustrate a source of energy that meets these needs. I'm going to call for a policy to bring this energy source to fruition, and then I'm going to explain why this policy's advantages are greater than its disadvantages. First of all, I'd like to demonstrate why we have a need for a new source of energy. Global warming caused by CO2 emissions from the burning of fossil fuels threatens to damage ecosystems worldwide. Not just trees, bugs, and other animals, but us. Rising waters can inundate local beachfront communities and cause great harm across the world. John Roach, a writer for National Geographic, states that by 2050, rising temperatures exacerbated by human-induced belches of CO2 and other greenhouse gases could send more than 1 million of Earth's land-dwelling plants and animals down the road to extinction, according to a recent study by Chris Thomas, a biologist at the University of Leeds. What this demonstrates is that our current energy source is causing damage worldwide, and we have to find another source that does not emit CO2 so we can mitigate these damages. The other problem is fossil fuels are limited. There's only so much oil in the ground to burn. We have to find a new source which is plentiful and renewable. And lastly, our dependence on foreign oil strains our international relationships, which demonstrates our need to find an energy source which we can mine right here at home. So what source meets all of these needs? Nuclear fusion. Its fuel source is hydrogen, which is non-radioactive. It's the main ingredient in water. It's domestic. We're surrounded by water. We have lakes, rivers, the oceans. It's in the air. It's in you and me. It's everywhere. It emits no CO2 because, again, the only reactants are hydrogen. Carbon and oxygen don't play into this at all. And lastly, it's virtually unlimited. Again, it's the main ingredient in water. Robert Steinhaus, a biological scientist, says phasing in electric cars and nuclear plants would go a very long way to eliminating the effects of greenhouse gases. So the only sufficiently powerful and carbon-free energy source that can replace coal and also meet and surpass the demands of our energy needs is nuclear energy. This shows that this energy source can meet these needs and provide us with a clean, reliable, and plentiful source of energy for years to come. There's tons of hydrogen everywhere. But there's only one problem. The technology isn't fully developed. It needs a cash investment to become a usable energy source. Dr. John Cleveland of the International Atomic Energy Agency states, it has been estimated that an investment on the order of US $50 to $100 billion is needed to bring fusion power to fruition. The rate of progress in fusion research is limited by the funding rate, which is estimated to be about US $1.5 billion per year worldwide. So the question then is, where do we get this cash in fusion to develop this power source? Surprisingly, the US government right now is spending almost that exact amount on subsidies to the fossil fuel industry. Tina Seeley from Bloomberg News states that government spending and tax breaks amounted to $72.5 billion for fossil fuels in 2009. That number has fluctuated between 50 to 100 billion each year in 2009 dollars. So the money's right there. So the policy I'm calling for is to transfer the money from subsidies for fossil fuel into research to develop nuclear fusion. And now I'm going to discuss why this policy's benefits is greater than its disadvantages. I've already stated that the benefits are that we develop an extremely efficient energy source that emits no CO2, that's plentiful, and that we can mine right here at home. The only problem is the technology is difficult to develop, but it can be done. All we need is a one-time cash investment from the US government. So yes, this will cost money when we have a budget crisis, but it won't require any new spending from current policy. The money is right there. All we have to do is transfer it. I'd also like to briefly address the nuclear disaster in Japan. That reactor was a nuclear fission reactor, which uses radioactive substances. As I've stated, hydrogen is not radioactive. So if there's a breach, it would spew hydrogen into the atmosphere, which would dissipate and wouldn't burn at all. We already have it in our atmosphere. So that shows, again, why we have to develop nuclear fusion energy, because it's safer than nuclear fission. It provides more than the same amount of energy. And now I'd like to state why this policy is superior to the alternatives. I've already stated why nuclear fusion is superior to the fossil fuels. It emits no CO2, it's virtually unlimited, and we can mine it right here at home. I've already stated how it is superior to fission. It's non-radioactive, so it's virtually harmless if there's a breach or a meltdown or anything. And I'd also like to say why it's superior to green technologies such as solar and wind. Ivan Pograniak, he's a physics and mathematics student at the University of North Carolina, states, nuclear fusion power plants, also referred to as thermonuclear reactors, may be the best answer to the energy problem. Firstly, they are more efficient and require only about 1/1,000,000th of the mass of fuel needed to produce the same amount of energy as a coal-operated plant. Secondly, their fuel sources are virtually unlimited, since they are the most abundant elements in the universe. And thirdly, they offer a much safer way of electric energy production. That is, the technologies implemented thus far are either not the safest for the environment or not the most expedient. So again, this shows why we have to develop this technology. The fuel source is virtually unlimited. It's not as harmful as nuclear fission. It's non-radioactive, and we can mine it right here at home. All we need is to transfer funds from our fossil fuel subsidies into developing this vital technology. And I would urge all of you to contact your congressman and urge this policy. Thank you.
So, Andrew, you here?
I'm here.
What say you?
I like the intro. He got his main point across very clearly. He didn't stutter too much, but he was very clear about how his plan would work, and I agree with him on that. My friend was actually telling me about the same thing yesterday, and I completely agree with the topic. But he was very clear. The got his main point across very clearly. He had a plan to do it, and the speech was overall very good.
All right. All right, Wesley, I like the opening. I thought you did a nice job setting up with the hypothetical situation and asking people to think about that, and then kind of laying out what the justifications were going to be for your position and holding off on telling us exactly what the topic was for a little bit until you get to the body of the speech where it's finally revealed. I thought you did a nice job on that. I do think you need to explain a little bit more what the difference between fission and fusion is, and I think you need to explain a little bit more about the likelihood or probability of fusion energy being developed with this influx of capital that you're talking about. I've been hearing about fusion energy for 30 years, and it's going to be solving all these problems. It's fantastic. There's a lot of people who've been talking about it since, like I said, the 1970s, and I'm wondering, okay, well, what kind of progress have we had? What's going on? And I don't really get enough context on it. It feels a little abstract. And you've got one advocate who says, oh, it's $50 billion investment and we're there. And I'm going, really? Because the $50 billion says a lot to you and me, but apparently the government said they got money to spend and burn like crazy. It seems to me like if this was going to do all the things that you were talking about, they'd find $50 billion for it. And so that's why I'm a little bit dubious about that. That's where the reservation is in my mind. I thought you did a nice job giving us a justification for why we need this. not as much explanation as we could about why it's safer and superior to fission reactors. I think you could go into that a little bit more. But all of the stuff about looking for an alternative, that's pretty easy stuff to explain, and you did a nice job on that, and it was very easy to follow and well organized, and you did a good job citing material on those sorts of things.